Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about how you can create your own performance grade calculator table within the usage of Google Sheets. So in this screen, you can see an example of a performance grade calculator table. We just gave these data by ourselves, so you can change these data, of course. I would like to start talking about how you can calculate these data by looking at this table. So in this table, you can see 0.3 and 0.1, and these actually represents the percentage of the data. So if you're using 30% of our quiz grade, we need to write 0.3 to coefficients. The point why we are writing these coefficients is just to have a better understanding and to calculate these easier. We need to know two formulas while we're calculating these grades. The first one is how to calculate the performance grade. I would like to start by talking about this function. In this function, we first start by saying average F2 to G2. There's a two dot symbol, but that doesn't mean that we are dividing F2 to G2. That only means that we are using an array that starts from F2 and lasts in G2. We then multiply this with M26. The reason why we're multiplying this with M26 is just because the coefficient of the assignments and project is 0.3, which means that we are calculating the 30% of the assignments and projects. And there's also these symbols, which means that this one actually represents all the data in the M column, while this one represents all the data in the 26th array. After we calculate the percentage of homework, the two homework, we can switch to lab grade, which we also do the same thing. We multiply it with its coefficient, which is coefficient, and then we also add this to the result that we find while calculating the two average of two homework. And then we need to do the same thing with quiz grade and participation grade. Of course, we can change these data, such as if the lab grade includes 60% of a performance grade, we might change this into 0.6. These are just changeable, and these are just examples that we just gave. And once we find all those percentages, we need to add them. And then once we add them, we can find their performance grade. So this was for this first part, which was actually the second array. However, we can copy this function into other ones with clicking this arrow and then moving downwards. Once we do that, we can copy this function and we can use this function for other students, and we don't have to write it every single time. However, I'm not going to do that now because we just did that already and wrote two grades, and I don't want to do it again because I don't want to change this table. And then I'm going to switch on the final grade function. So in this final grade, which consists all the exams and performance grade, we first need to find the average of K2. So K2 is basically our performance grade. However, we also need to write the average of B2 to E2. So B2 to E2 actually represents the four of those exams, the average of four of those exams. And once we find the average of exams and the performance grade, we can find that to final grade. And then once we find it, we can also copy the function for other students. So that was it. That was how to create our own performance grade calculator. So just like an overview, we can just sum it all up. Why we first start with writing the coefficients, which determines the percentage that we are adapting. And then once we multiply that coefficient with our data, we can add them up to find the performance grade. And once we find the average of the performance grade and the four exams, we can add those and divide by 2 in order to find the final grade. And that was it. Thank you for listening to me.